the price is what makes people all emotional and shitty and stuff, I feel like, right? So what I do is I trade according to what that project is worth, how many pulses is it worth. I take it to that extent. Like, okay, if I invest this now, if this project like such as Pepe is going to be a long-term project, the price of Pulse is going to go up no matter what, because there's adoption, there's volume going to increase, there's going to be a bull run, there's going to be a lot of new traffic, a lot of new investors. So I think about it from that perspective, just in case anybody's new here, or like maybe I don't know if I'm crazy, but sometimes I think like that. Like, I don't think about the actual price of how much Pulse costs. I think about okay, how much Pulse is this project? How much Pulse I'm going to put in this project? How much Pulse is my Pulse going to be worth? Like, obviously, it's so early in this blockchain, in this chain, Pulse chain, that like you've seen Ethereum, you've seen BSC, you've seen pretty much all the blockchains that came out. They always increase in volume. You know what I mean? If we even hit like certain percentage of blockchains that are not even that popular, we're still making crazy money. You know what I mean? And we have more potential than even Ethereum at this point, because a lot of people are just starting to wake up to and realize about Pulse chain, that what the capabilities are, and how it's deflationary driven, and how it's gangster. You know what I mean? And the fees are just cheap. Like, it's so awesome. Even in the even in the bull run, it's like, obviously I've seen fees in Ethereum for like anywhere of upwards of 700-800, sometimes I've even seen $1,400 fee one time. I've seen $1,400 during the bull run peak. And like the max that I even see, though, bro, even if the fee ever goes to like $20 on Pulse chain, which I doubt it ever would, because that doesn't make sense mathematically, but like even that's like crazy amazing, like, especially if you're trading crazy money, you know what I mean? But regardless, stop worrying about the charts, stop crying, pull up, we're chilling, we're having a good time. This is all normal, you know what I mean?
I mean, like the other people that are like Crypto Junkie is saying, just like whining about everything. And it's like someone else said, right? Like, ask not what Pulsechain can do for you, but ask what you can do for Pulsechain. Stop waiting for someone else to build an NFT marketplace, right? We have this blockchain that's basically a copy of Ethereum, and literally like the tech from Ethereum.
I love single-sided staking. So whatever opens up on Pulsex in regards to single-sided staking and tokens, they're going to be available. It's going to be dope. We're going to be looking at those.
No, but I mean, for liquid loans, you know how you could like delay your gratification, and would have been able to get a better bonus, or a bonus when you sacrificed, if you delayed it, right? Like 1 month, 2 months, up to 24 months. 24 months, you would have gotten the biggest bonus. You didn't spread the allocation around. You were able to delay it like up to like 24 months, and if you delayed it the 24 months, you would have gotten the full bonus per dollar sacrifice amount. Like, I'm gonna receive like the biggest, like the first month, and then after that, just like get access to whatever I did pushback, which is pretty cool, because the 24th month, it's a pretty big bag also, so that's pretty neat. I think it helps maintain a good price for it, right? Because not everybody could dump the first day. If they did like spread it out, still gotta wait.
The powers that be don't want regulation because they use crypto themselves to hide funds, because you know how corrupt they are, right? And in that case, the regulations, they'll pretend that they're going to do regulations, but in the background, they're actually buying the dip, right? So either that's going to happen, or on the flip side, I think that they're gonna come up with some laws where if you're gonna make a token, you have to get it approved that it's not a security, or they might not even call it security. They might come up with a whole new word like digital asset security or digital asset something, right? So they'll come up with a whole new law, and then they'll force whoever's making a token to get it approved first, that it doesn't fall outside of the regulation of that, regulation.
Yeah, they wouldn't be able to regulate that, though. I mean,
well, here's how they can. So I'm getting to that next point, which is Ethereum is centralized validation. So they could tell the validators, if you allow this token to get created prior to the approval, you could be held liable for operating security, and you could be fined and or imprisoned for doing that. So the validators would comply, and they would not allow a token to get created until it gets approved by whoever's, the powers that be, right? These corrupt governments. That's one way they could do it, right? I hope there's nobody in here listening from the FBI or the SEC. The corrupt politicians are using crypto, so they don't really want to regulate it. They just want to create, an illusion that they want to regulate it, but they never will, because they're using it because they're corrupt. That's really what I hope is happening.
Well, I don't think they can. I don't think they can track down every single validator node and say, "Hey, you're liable." I mean, you know how many people they would have to go after, like in
Yeah.
Ethereum, to do that. I mean, so it'd probably be the second option.
Well, on Ethereum, I don't know if you knew this, Texas, but on Ethereum, the biggest validators are the centralized exchanges. That's a fact. Coinbase, Kraken, Binance, they're all the biggest validators. So they could do it. They could say, Coinbase, you're not allowed to validate until it's approved. Kraken, if you do these validations before it's approved, you're held liable. You go to jail, right? So they could start doing that. And that's where Pulsechain comes in and saves the day, because Pulsechain is not centralized when it comes to validation. Pulsechain will be the chain that takes over crypto. Ethereum is done. That's why I've gotten everything off Ethereum. I'm done with it. I don't want to participate in a centralized validation system that's being validated by the centralized exchanges that I disagree with.
Wasn't there an article that came out a while back where they had reversed something on the chain? Something like there was already a demonstration of what you're describing on Ethereum, and I forget what it was. I'd have to try to find this article. It was a ways back where it was like someone actually wrote an article about this. It was like a censorship moment on the chain that took place.
Yeah, I think that was the stable coins, right? With the Tornado Cash, stuff like that. But that's the other thing, they say Bitcoin and Ethereum is censorship resistant. It's really not, because there have been moments where Bitcoin miners were told, if you allow a transaction from this address, you will be prosecuted and you will be put in jail. You cannot allow any transactions from this address. And that address was associated with some type of illegal activity. So it is censorship. It is not, I should say, it is not censorship resistant like everyone believes it is.
I had brought this up before as well, that the community at large, or whoever has the skills to do so, should work towards decentralized applications to interface with Pulsechain. One great example would be a wallet. It would be really cool if we had, and when I say decentralized, what I mean to say is that it's not like you go get this application off of one single server, or you download it somewhere, or there's like a website operating this. It's more like the Web3 effect of it. It's a application that has seeds and nodes itself to share that wallet and its code, so that it's just out there, right? And it's open source, so it's open source and anybody can develop on it, and you just basically have a wallet that is not, like MetaMask is sort of, like it's a browser extension, so there's no centralized location for those tools that people are using to interact on the chain itself. They also are decentralized.
Yeah, you could always run a Python script using Web3 Python module, and you can send tokens, swap tokens. You could do all sorts of functions. Any function you could do on chain, you could program it in there and do it that way. So there's no stopping what's going on with Pulsechain. There's no way to stop it. And the validators are spread out around the world. I don't know if everybody saw the map. Did everybody see the map on plsburn.com? There's a globe. If you haven't seen it, please take a moment while we're discussing this. Pull up the website and check it out. There's a very cool globe on plsburn.com where it shows all the validators for Pulsechain, and they're all around the world. So there's no stopping Pulsechain. Richard Hart talks about just-in-time security. And just-in-time security, before I explain it, does anyone want to jump in and share with the group what that is?
Well, before you do, I wanted to comment on the globe that you just spoke about. And you can see that, by the way, if you go to plsburn.com and you just go to statistics and click on validators. And then there's a button you can click that says show globe. And one of the things I wanted to ask was, do you know if these are just AWS servers that have been built out to run this? Do you know what I mean? Like, are these all centralized in the sense that this is all Amazon, equipment? Because that's another approach that could happen with validators, where it's like Amazon could look at everybody and say, we're shutting these down, if everybody's using that, for example.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people are using Amazon AWS, right? And that kind of fucking freaks me out.
Well, I know we definitely have validators using actual hardware. You guys should all join the Pulsechain dev chat. Even if you're not interested in running one, join the Telegram room just to read. Sometimes, go in there and read what they're writing. And there are definitely validators that have actual equipment. There probably are some cloud-based ones too. They're cutting corners there, and they're going to the cloud. But there are absolutely validators with real equipment, and there is actually a validator who has a warehouse full of machines to validate Pulsechain. And I'm sure some of you in this room here know who I'm talking about. It's Alex from Hedron. He built a huge warehouse for validations. So this is legit, and Pulsechain is totally different than Ethereum when it comes to validations. And Ethereum can be shut down. Pulsechain cannot.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to imply that. My question wasn't meant to imply that, we're screwed because we have AWS users here. I was simply asking the question just to see if you knew that, because even if Amazon did that, okay, that doesn't mean that there wouldn't be somewhere for someone else to go, for those users or validators to go to, set up again and run with even some other cloud opportunity, or like you said, their own equipment. And how far does governmental jurisdiction reach unless we enter into full on globalism here? They can only put their thumb on so many locations on the planet. So the more spread out across the planet it is, the better. We like that. But even if there was a region that was kind of, had less validators because of this issue in that region, this governmental overreach, then, it doesn't mean that the chain's not going to get validated, because they would have a lot to stop. But they could approach it from one of those aspects with cloud. But again, those validators might have other opportunities once that occurred, right? It's not the end all moment.
Yeah, and that's where the just-in-time security comes in. So this is what Richard Hart talks about a lot. Just-in-time security. If someone, some government entity or some army or something somewhere starts, kicking in the doors of our validators, then we just move to another spot, right? So hey, X army is coming around kicking in the doors. Okay, I'm just going to move over to another spot. So it's like whack-a-mole, right? So with Ethereum, that's not the case because you have centralized companies doing the validations. So if Gary calls up the Coinbase guy, what's his name, Brian? Gary calls up Brian and says, "Look, you're validating Ethereum. You need to stop, or you need to not process these transactions. Otherwise, we're going to arrest you." That's it. It's done. It's stopped. But with a decentralized validation system like we have, it's much more first principles of crypto.
Yeah, another issue that we didn't bring up that they would have would be just identifying those validators, right? So that could be a whole nother step they would have to go through. It's one thing to see the validator, to see the machine, or to see the node, but to actually identify who that person is might be a whole nother step or process that they would need to go through to be able to try to put that kind of pressure. Can you talk for a second about what you just mentioned again? Where that comes in. What is that called again that you mentioned?
Just in time security. It applies to situations like actual physical validating, right? Hardware. It applies to other situations that could occur with the blockchain, where like let's say somebody in their basement has a breakthrough and they develop a quantum black hole computer where they create a little black hole in a device, and that black hole creates so much energy that it can power the strongest computer that the universe has ever seen, right? That person would be able to take a public key and spit out the private key. So if that were to happen, all of crypto would kind of be broken, right? So what would you do in that situation? Well, just in time security. So you just upgrade the security and you roll back the chain to before the computer was developed, and that's it. You move on.
You know how
So
hard it would be to crack someone's private key? I mean, there's more protons in the universe than there are possibilities for some algorithm, like some computer black hole algorithm to run to solve it. It's like essentially impossible. I think it's like 10 to the 79th power of possibilities. Like
yeah, I don't think he was suggesting that it would happen. He was giving a hypothetical horrible scenario.
Yeah, exactly.
So
And even it could be like if let's say someone, found that there was some type of bug or security hole in Pulse Chain, then it could just roll back. It's just in time security, right? So it could just roll back to before it happened. So it's really
right, and
not something that anyone needs to worry about, but some
that's
people
what I
get
was.
worried about.
Sorry, that's what I was going to ask you is so just-in-time security is the feature that enables that rollback you're describing, right? Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah. So there's nothing to worry about. And I think a lot of people get worried about these things when you don't have to. You don't have to be worried about any of it.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the security. I'm just worried about like when it's time to cash out, am I going to be able to cash out, or am I just going to be holding, currency that I can't spend forever, right? I mean, I can, like in Texas, I can buy real estate with crypto. Cool, but can I buy groceries with crypto? Can I buy, can I go down to my local sporting goods store and buy a basketball hoop? No. So I mean, if I need fiat, and if I can't cash out fiat, then I'm just holding digital coins for the sake of holding digital coins, right? I mean, that's what I'm worried about. It just kind of freaks me out.
So I'd like to throw something else into this conversation. Couldn't it be that their attempt or some of their approach to some of this would be in a central bank digital currency? That's another funnel they could use to limit access or the endpoint at which you can get to this quote spendable government currency. Is that, so never mind the centralized exchanges. Now we're talking about something that's digital where it's like they say, well, never mind the centralized exchanges. As far as stable coins go and things like that, if you want to come into this currency that's all we allow people to use in the, let's call it the legacy economy, then you have to go through these doorways, these digital doorways right here.
Yeah, that's a scary scenario because with the CBDCs, I think one of the built-in features is they can limit you to how much of one thing that you do on a normal basis, right? If I want to buy 10 gallons of gasoline and then I want to buy 10 more, they're like, oh, you already bought your $10 of gasoline today. Sorry, you're done. And it's the same thing with crypto, right? Like, oh, you already cashed out like $1,000 today. Sorry, can't do any more.
Well,
That's
and that's not the only thing about them. They can, let's say it this way, they with that digital currency that they would create, they could do anything they wanted with it because all they'd have to do is update it or do modifications to it. And when I say anything, like another example we've seen that they would use would be they would put expiration dates on your funds. So there's no more inheritance for little Johnny, right? Because those funds have become expired because you had to use them by a certain date. So there's all kinds of nasty things they can do with it. But when this topic has come up before and I've discussed this or debated this with others, I have suggested that there would be factions that would rise in a scenario like this where you have people that are just going to do everything in their might to stay outside of that system. And being that you do have somewhat of a global marketplace that does create the delicacy of each of these countries' economies, there still may be a way that they can interact, trade, let's say, get a hold of products and these types of things, even though they're not within that system. But either way, there would be factions that would form around it because I don't know about you, but if somebody said to me, here, you can have fiat cash, which you're not really a fan of already, or you can have this digital currency that's like, it expires. It doesn't allow you to spend it on food if you've gone past your protein allotment or whatever other Orwellian nightmare scenario they code into it. I'm not interested in that. It's not, I'm really going to be resistant to that. I'm going to go against the grain and make it hard for them to implement that. Any other comments on that?
how would you go against the grain if the only thing you could do is like if you could only legally make purchases using their choice of currency, whether it be CBDCs or normal fiat cash, and then they don't allow you to transition from your decentralized cash back to their centralized cash, like how are you going to survive?
So there would be like let me say how I need like an analogy here. Like maybe in the same way that they get Bibles into an area where they're not legal to have them, it's like underground activity begins to form. And that doesn't mean that individuals or people do not have these digital currencies and that they do not use them. However, if they have crypto that's in another place in the world that it is allowed to be able to be used, then perhaps they would be out there trying to use that as well. Because like he said, there's so many ways. I think it was Crypto Rampage was talking. It's really hard to stop what's out there that is decentralized. There'd be too many creative ways for me to get, like, even if they had like the Great Wall of whatever country it is, that's like a firewall. There's other avenues to get a connection out there. There's other things that you can do to access these endpoints so that you can transact that would be very hard to stop people from doing. So, maybe you wouldn't be able to intermingle crypto directly with these other cryptos that we have, like Pulsechain, directly with this digital bank currency. But what you would be able to do is have them separate, and they would be able to be used for whatever you could get access to on the actual crypto faction side of that world. So, and then you would have to ask yourself, how long would that work for an individual company or government that they were trying to control currencies in said way? Because it might be that the marketplaces out there would become more durable and outlast them, where that would actually literally fall apart. So that's how you get around it. You literally not really participate in it any more than you had to,
Yeah, that's what that just goes back to what Rampage was saying was, you literally just have to change locations, right? If you don't want to participate in it. So if I want to not participate in their bullshit that they're doing with their local currency, I'd need to go somewhere else in the world that is okay with it. And I've actually talked to my wife about that. I was like, oh well, her country where she has a passport from, they allow it. So it's like, well, if shit hits the fan and we have a few $1 million sitting in crypto, then I guess we're gonna move to your country then, and until they ban it.
Yeah, and we can't really cross those bridges until, or put those fires out until those fires are burning, But it does seem like something is coming. There's definitely a storm coming around these things, and you just wonder where the top is, like the top is already spinning, but where's it going to spin out, and what's that going to be like, Because this is disruptive. We already knew that a long time ago. Crypto is going to be disruptive, so there's going to be some chaos, and we've already seen governments that have tried to put clamps on these things, and that has been difficult. Or let's say they haven't been able to do it in like a jurisdiction sense very well so far. And maybe that's just because they really haven't made any moves. But I think that Crypto Rampage pointed something out where it's like it could be that there's going to be a bunch of FUD. Like this is not what we're about to see is going to be like a lot of FUD, and they will play with digital currencies and they will do stuff like that, but it's not going to be what it's being dressed up to be. We won't know till we see things actually happening. I mean, we have seen this activity of, what is it, Blackrock now? What did they just put in a request for? Was it an ETF for Bitcoin? Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's right.
So, what's that all about? Hard to say, right?
I don't know, man.
I know BlackRock got trillions and trillions of dollars. So if BlackRock hop on a Bitcoin, that's going to be pretty good if they approve it.
Right. And I actually saw some people putting videos out kind of like saying like, can BlackRock kill Bitcoin? Right. Like, did they come in here to play the game, or did they come in here to smash the gaming device, in whatever way they can? That's what I mean when I say, what's that all about? We're not, it's an interesting thing to try to think through.
BlackRock owns
DC. Yeah.
Like BlackRock has so much fucking money. They own the SEC, man. They can do whatever the fuck they want. And I think the game is a lot deeper than this. I think their end game, them being BlackRock, it just goes a lot deeper than the surface. Is like, oh yeah, we want to make some money off of Bitcoin, right? I think it's a lot deeper of a game that they're playing. And I don't know, maybe it'll have something to do with these CBDCs, right? Maybe they're in on it. And maybe I'm just a conspiracy theorist, maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. It just seems really convenient for them to step in saying, oh, we want to allow ETF trading or allow ETFs on Bitcoin right after the SEC just made a major attack to Coinbase and Binance. It just seems the timing of it is kind of strange.
Yeah, that's what I mean about, there's a lot of corrupt politicians. And the worst case scenario would be BlackRock coming in and, rehypothecation of the Bitcoin asset. So where they say they have, a certain amount when really they don't, and they're just trading paper Bitcoins, right? So that could be pretty bad. But it goes back to the corrupt politicians. And that's why I feel like maybe there will not be any regulation, because they're using crypto too. And they're trying to use it for nefarious reasons. So we'll have to see how it goes.
FTX, cough,
Exactly.
Yeah, they knew what SBF was doing the entire time, and they didn't do shit. So all of this, like the whole narrative, this whole situation with what's going on with SEC and BlackRock and just all the world, it just seems like something big is going to happen soon. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing or what, but like you said, I guess we'll have to see.